everyone, Josh Reminds here, and welcome back for another movie review. And today I'm going to be reviewing the 1980s cult dark horror comedy Motel Hell from 1980.
There's a friendly motel.
We'd like a room for the night. Come on inside, I'll fix you up.
Featuring a heated pool and competitive sports. Where Ida and Farmer Vincent tend a garden. Their famous secret garden for very special guests. Drop in. You just might die laughing. Motel Hell, rated R.
Motel Hell stars Rory Calhoun, Nancy Parsons, and Paul Linke, as directed by Kevin Connor. The plot of Motel Hell is that Farmer Vincent and his Puntley sister Ida puts lost motorists into their popular smoked meats. Before I get started on this review, I would like to say I've never saw this movie. This was a first time watch for me. My friend Abe and I watched it last Thursday. He never saw the film either. It was a first time watch for both of us. It was a movie that's been kind of laying on the shelf because it was a Scream Factory release. Got the Scream Factory DVD of Motel Hell. I'm honestly was very surprised to see that Scream Factory still makes just basic DVDs, and I got it for like $10. And that was a film I never saw before, and it was a film that was featured in the In Search of Darkness documentaries. And yeah, so I watched the film with Abe, and here are my thoughts on Motel Hell. I think the actors playing the two, like the farmer and his sister, Farmer Vincent and Ida, are pretty good, actually, especially considering, like they seem to be out of any of the actors, the one playing the most effort into their roles, and they seem like they're having a ball playing these farmers who went cannibalistic. They seem to be having a blast with that, and I think it shows in the film. I also do think this is kind of an interesting concept, where you have Farmer Vincent and his sister Ida, who are essentially cannibals, and they actually farm human beings. Like, they actually farm them. Like, they put them, like, they kidnap motorists and they put them in vegetable patches. Like, they actually make it look like they're like vegetables and that they, then kill and then cook and put in the meat. That is honestly kind of a interesting concept for something like this. And I will say, this film is distinct enough to where you wouldn't be able to confuse this film for any other Campbell movie. You wouldn't be able to honestly, you would not confuse Motel Hell for something like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 that came out in the 80s. I think around the time that Motel Hell did. So you would not be able to confuse the two. So I'll give it that. I also give, for a low budget film like this film's budget was a budget of $3 million. For the budget, there are some, I think it has pretty good production value overall, especially with some of the lighting. I think some of the lighting is pretty good in Motel Hell. But unfortunately, that is where the positives of Motel Hell stop. One of the biggest negatives and one of the biggest sins that this movie commits is that it just seemed like it had no idea what it wanted to be. It had no idea what tone it wanted. I know it was trying to go for a dark comedy, but there was not a lot of, it wasn't dark enough, but it also wasn't humorous enough. There might have been maybe a few moments of kind of belly chuckles of humor, but outside of that, that's about it. And it wasn't dark enough. Honestly, you'd think with the title and the plot, it'd be a really gory horror film, but no, it's very tame. And here's the thing: I'm somebody who is less is more. But for me, if I'm coming into a film called Motel Hell and it involves cannibals and stuff like that, it's meant to be this dark comedy, I expect there to be gore, expect there to be some dark stuff, and I expect there to be a decent amount of humor thrown into the mix. And I could tell they're trying to get some of that stuff out there, but the filmmakers weren't competent enough to really showcase this film's full potential. And the reason probably for that is I watched the making of Motel Hell, and that shows that the director of Motel Hell, Kevin Connor, never worked with this stuff before, actually. He never worked on a horror film. He was very inexperienced. In fact, a lot of the filmmakers involved, like the writers and that, were very inexperienced with this stuff. And you could tell. You could tell, from that. And I think because they're tackling something that could be kind of difficult, mixing comedy and horror, I think they should have stuck with one or the other. Whatever they think their strength was, is that if they felt like their strengths leaned more towards the dark horror side, they should have just made this a dark, serious horror film. If they felt like their strengths leaned towards more the comedic, humorous side of the film, they should have made this into a full-blown comedy without any bit of horror. That's what they should have done. They should have stuck with whatever they felt like their strengths lied in, and just stuck with it. But it seemed like because they didn't, the film feels overall very confused in regards to what tone and direction even the film wants to go into. This film doesn't really have much of a plot really at all. I could barely tell you, honestly, that is the plot of the movie. It's essentially just these cannibal farmers with Farmer Vincent and his sister Ida, who kidnaps motorists and cook them up. That's essentially the plot of the movie. There's no I guess they try to weave in some plots about okay, so after trying to kidnap some motorists and that, a motorist and his girlfriend, the motorist died, but the girlfriend survived, and she ends up, kind of living with with Farmer Vincent and him, and starting to work for them. Eventually, over time, she starts to fall in love with Farmer Vincent and all that different stuff, and it's just really confusing. I'm like, you have seriously no idea what relationship her and Farmer Vincent really have. You don't, and it's kind of creepy considering she's I don't know, maybe in her 20s or something like that, and he's in his 50s. It's kind of eerie because of that, and yeah, it's and then other eerie elements that came into the film is that you have Farmer Vincent's brother, who is the sheriff of the town, and he's completely oblivious to the cannibalistic shit that his brother and his sister is doing. He kind of starts to try to date this girl and everything like that, and they do go on dates and that, and he starts to come on to her with, really starts to come onto her very Harvey Weinstein type of shit. Kind of makes you not want to root for this guy at all. And there's just a lot of creepy ass elements into this film that I don't think was creepy in the way that they intended it to be. And for me, I'm just no. It's just seriously. And so therefore you never okay, because there's no characters here you want to root for. The main chick, who's supposed to be the final girl, she is completely dull. She's completely you don't really know much about her at all. She has no offense to her, but her acting is no offense to the actress, but her acting is very wooden throughout the majority of the film. And so you can't even root for her as being the final girl who escapes from these Campbell siblings and that. And then you have again Farmer Vincent's brother, who's the sheriff, who ends up by the end of the film, spoiler alert, becomes a bit of the hero and saves the main final girl. And I'm but this is the dude who tried to come onto her, tried to sexually assault this woman. How am I supposed to be rooting for a sexual predator, So there's all this different weird stuff, and I don't think it was weird in a way that the directors wanted, and I just think it makes the film kind of ooey and not ooey in a way the filmmakers wanted again. So for me, there was no characters you could root for, because again, you have the cannibal siblings with Farmer Vincent and Ida. You have the main final girl who is a bland piece of nothing character that is just really there just so that they can have a final girl. And then you have the brother of Farmer Vincent, who is the sheriff of the town, who's oblivious to his brother's cannibalistic antics. And not only is he dumb, but also he he's a sexual predator. You know, he's tried to sexually assault the main final girl. And he comes out as the hero at the end. And I'm like, that's a character that in any other horror film you would want to see die. You know, you would want to see get his comeuppance, you know, and they should have thrown in a character in there that you could root for. If they wanted to have a, you know, character that saves the final girl at the end of the movie, make a character who is likable. I just don't have any words for this film, really. This film is, for the most part, well, let's just move on to my rating. So with that said, I'm going to give Motel Hell a 2 out of 5 stars. Honestly, for the most part, this film, while it has some interesting ideas, has some fun performances from Rory Calhoun and Nancy Parsons, who plays Farmer Vincent and Ida. Those are fun performances, and has some interesting ideas, has some decent production value, especially with the $3 million budget. But outside of that, it's just not good. It's not a good movie. Even with the film's $3 million budget, it still didn't do enough to make this film a good movie overall. And again, it had a very inexperienced crew, director, writers, all that different stuff. You could tell they were out of their element in regards to this film. And here's the thing. Again, this film does have some interesting ideas and has some interesting concepts that I think this film could lend pretty well to a remake. I think at some point they should do a remake of Motel Hell. I think you could do a lot of neat stuff with a remake. Will that ever happen? I don't know. But I think personally, I think this is one of those 80s horror films that I think should personally get remade. Because I think you could actually improve upon the original Motel Hell. You could actually, if you want it to be a dark comedy, still like the original, you could make it very dark, you know, and gory, and you could make it very humorous, you know. You just need a right director and the right writers and a better cast overall. And some of the things I disliked and some of the things I think should be changed if they ever were to remake this movie. But overall, Motel Hell is on paper sounded like an interesting idea, but in execution just falls flat on its face, and is probably a film I will not rewatch anytime soon. So that's it for this review. Tell me guys in the comments down below, what do you guys think of Motel Hell? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you indifferent about it? Tell me in the comments down below. And again, play nice in the comments. This is a channel that is not going to breed any form of toxicity. So any kind of toxic comments I see towards me or towards anybody else will be removed and your channel will be blocked. Also too, if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. It would really help. I hope to get up to 100 subscribers by the end of the year, so let's try to make that happen. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.